It's yep. I won't turn it on. Get out.
It's not coming. Yeah, we're fine, right? Oh. Small group here. Yes, yes. So I'll call to order and welcome all that are here. And for the agenda review, are there any additions or deletions people have for the agenda for tonight? Okay, moving right along. Can we close that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is even on. Well, we might have some. I don't know if this is even on.
Yeah.
Okay.
My technical skills are good.
Oh, and he kind of didn't say to me, oh, you've got to do this. Okay, thank you. All right. Privilege of the floor. I see Ted and Joel. So go ahead, Ted.
Well, sure. Thank you kindly. I think Joel had his hand up first, but I don't have much to say, so I don't think I'll be inconveniencing him very much. Two things. First one, the audio coming through is indistinct and echoey, so let me ask you all to use your microphones, make sure they're turned on and relatively close to you so that we can understand what you're saying, which hasn't been extremely clear so far. And second, I read through the staff memo for the case that you have coming up today, and I'd just like to point out and ask a question that it is self-contradictory. Items 3 and 6 describe a situation with the Board of Zoning Appeals. And so the question is, one says that it will be going to the BZA, and the other says that the BZA has resolved the matter. And I'm just curious which one it is, which one is true. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Yes. Joel?
I I didn't get a chance, but I thought Scott Davis had suggested that the board consider whether and to what extent it might want to be involved in dealing with the short-term rental issue. And I've got it on the town board agenda for tomorrow to consider what your desires are. But of course, you have to have had a discussion about what they are in order for us to respond to it. So I don't know if you were planning on discussing that tonight, but it would be timely if you did.
So is that in addition to the agenda? You're asking us to discuss whether
Yeah, is Scott there? I don't see him present around.
Scott is not here.
Yeah,
Not
which is
yet,
interesting. Yeah. It was he who raised the issue. And well, I mean, I'm happy to discuss it with you in any event, if you're willing.
All right, well, Joel, why don't we put that after we go over the one thing that we have to deal with tonight, so that we
Sure.
don't keep people waiting, okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, thanks. So we're gonna add that, I guess, to the agenda is to discuss whether or not we should be involved. Okay, thank you. And I don't see any other hands. Oh, wait, Steve Edgar. What?
That's our house.
Oh, okay. It has a name. News to me. All right. Okay, moving on, let's, if everyone has taken a look at the minutes from last month. Oh, yeah, there was no March, February minutes. I'd like a motion.
Motion to approve the minute.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Thank you. Okay, and
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Cowan,
yes,
Maher, yes. Schreiber,
yes. All right, thank you. And the next thing on the agenda is the town board liaison report, and both Leslie and Joel are here. Do either one of you have a report for us?
I'm sure Leslie's prepared to do this.
I think so. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you? Okay. It's the sound is really bad tonight. And I just got a message saying that I was muted, but we'll see what happens. I don't know if you're aware, Joel has signed the town on with Triple Cities Network Solutions for IT services. So over the next month, we should be, or maybe over the next week, we should be, getting some things in order. Things will be changing, probably email. But we'll try. I'm sure Joel has it all planned out as far as how we're going to keep in touch with everybody and everybody be on the same page, but it's kind of exciting. And hopefully the services will be good. A number of recent activities and conversations have been generating a lot of feedback for the town, whether it's in emails or on this Danby South Hill Facebook page. The first one as Joel was talking about, the short-term rental survey has been mailed out to all residents and posted on the town website for people to complete it electronically. I encourage people, and I hope everybody encourages their neighbors and their friends to fill it out and send it back, or to fill it out online. And it's just the beginning. I think it's just the beginning of gathering information. We want to protect and encourage those few people in town that have successful short-term rental businesses. And we need to assume the trend is a growing one, as it is in other places. David started a group last year specifically to address the use of unattached dwellings as rentals, yurts, cabins, tents. Right now, those are not allowed. And I assume that Danby might be interested in allowing those things. So that's just part of what this short-term rental stuff is all about. And now the town board is looking to seeking to look at the whole picture, the possible impacts, and if we need to or want to do anything to mitigate potential impacts. So there's that. The cannabis public hearing last meeting drew very few comments. But the town amended the town zoning to cover retail and consumption businesses, which will be permitted in just the commercial zones, the hamlet neighborhood zones on corner lots, and the hamlet center zones. But those uses will be required to meet site plan requirements. So dealing with odors, signage, and no drive-through or curbside transactions. The other issue that's drawing a lot of involvement is the draft noise law that's been posted and is going to be talked about, or part of tomorrow's board meeting is going to be set aside to hear resident comments on this very draft local law regarding noise. And helpful comments have been rolling in. So I hope everybody is able to read that draft and also be involved or submit comments.
Leslie, that's at
That's
6
it.
tomorrow, right? Is it
Yeah.
6?
Mhm.
Oh, this isn't working? Oh.
I can't hear a word. Just
I said that's at 6 tonight, tomorrow night, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I can't hear
I have
anything.
another,
I'm hearing static. Right,
I'm not. so-
right.
Neither of the two mics in front of Jody is working. We're hearing an echoey thing picked up by yet another mic.
this on?
Yeah.
There are lots of other mics that just need to have a battery inserted to supplement the wired ones.
Oh, you think that's why it was echoing?
How's this? Is this any better? Doesn't sound
Yes.
like it. Yes, okay, I think it's because this was
Much
on.
better. It's still echoing. It's still bouncing.
Yeah,
But-
it's still being picked up by another mic in the room, but we can hear it.
All right. What, I have another question is in terms of getting people to fill out the forms for the potential for the, short-term rentals and that stuff. Is there anywhere that there could be a sign? Is the sign that's at the firehouse, is that only for the firehouse for information? Any of you know?
Good question. It's their sign, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't necessarily respond negatively to a request to put something up on it, though.
Yeah.
I have people I walk with, and I was talking to 3 or 4 folks about some of the upcoming discussions that are happening, and they get the newsletter but hadn't read it. So
Mhm.
I'm wondering how many people are in
Oh.
that situation, and if there's another way to alert people that some of this stuff is going to get discussed.
Well, the sign's certainly one way.
There is a sign across from town hall. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's something.
Community council signs.
It's also on the Danby South Hill Facebook page. David put a big announcement on there and
Yeah.
people, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right, I just wonder about a sign because people go by that and not everybody is on either one of those things in some
Mhm.
cases, I guess, because they had no idea any of that was being discussed.
And some of the stuff, well,
Well,
it's also on the radio occasionally.
Everybody, yeah. And everybody got the newsletter. Everybody got the newsletter.
I know. Well, and I encourage them to find their newsletter and read it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thanks. Is there anything else in regards to information from Leslie or Joel?
Well, not till we get to the short-term rental discussion.
Okay. Well, the next thing on the agenda is the East Miller Road. Right? And I'm sorry, it's Jeremy. Canoe? Okay. So can you update us on what's been happening?
Actually, you can come up with that microphone.
Come up to the microphone.
Turn it back on as well.
Hello. I guess we're just waiting I spoke with David earlier through email. We assumed everything would be done and finalized tonight. The survey's been done preliminarily. They wanted to wait to put it in stone until everybody decided whether anything needed to be changed. But David had the preliminary surveys. I don't know if he shared them with you guys. But that's all been done. We're just kind of waiting on final approval from everybody and anybody.
Yeah, he sent an email, I think, and he said the county part was not complete, so that we couldn't.
Yeah, we weren't aware that we had to get approval from the county as well, so.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, but it's been a long process.
I think, I can't help you with that.
Yeah,
It is what it is, but I
no,
think,
I understand, but it's
yeah, so there's nothing new. I know you went to the BZA and you got the variance, and so that
Yeah.
is done now.
Yeah.
That-
We can do the
We
public
can-
hearing. And get the rest of the stuff.
And we can do the short-term environmental assessment form, we just can't sign anything tonight,
okay,
so we can do that other stuff.
yeah,
All right,
okay.
does anybody have additional questions?
I think we should probably do public hearing and ask, questions.
Okay. Yes, we
Yeah.
need a motion for the public hearing.
Oh, yeah, I have a question. This is Steve Edgar. So I'm on East Miller Road, a couple of houses up from where the subdivision is. I'm just curious if it's possible to see if it's possible to look at the proposed cut. I know it's been approved and everything. I'm just curious kind of how it'll be subdivided and where any new dwellings might go. So my land does border Jeremy's.
I'll be up to see you tomorrow, Steve.
Pardon?
Butch Miller talking. I can come up tomorrow and see you with the map.
Oh, thanks. That'd be great.
Why didn't you call me?
I'm sorry, I missed that last part.
I said, why didn't you call me?
Okay.
I'm kind of late into all this, but I just trying to learn. So
Well, what time tomorrow would be good for you?
morning would be good if it's good for you. Would 9 a.m. work?
9's good.
Great, thanks.
All right.
That's good to you. Yeah.
It's right there. Never called me. I don't.
So are we not bringing up the picture if you guys have agreed to look? She's looking to see if she can do it, but.
Anybody else have comments for fair hearing? I mean,
Well, we should open the public hearing.
the public hearing.
If we need a motion, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, but we need a motion. So,
Well, second.
thank you. All right, public hearing is open. We don't have to do it. You can just open it. All right. Any comments? Yeah, I don't see anybody on. Looks good. All right. So then we can close it. Done and done. Okay. Yeah, so we can discuss whether we have any questions about it.
Do we have to do the, what was it called? No, not the seeker, the environmental one with the overlay thing that David sent before we can do seeker? Or no? You know, the color diagram he had with the impact areas? I didn't get my, because he didn't send me a hard copy.
Yeah, he dropped off stuff at my house. He didn't drop that.
Oh, okay. It was on the,
This, are you talking about?
was this,
That's the variance, which has been approved.
the resource map. So the board will also need to adopt the resource map. I don't know if we have to do that before we do the seeker or we can do that after. Just with the limitations of the disturbance area.
David, are you on? Can you answer this?
It's, I think it's her computer.
Oh, it's just his computer.
Yeah.
Ah. He said he gave me a phone number if we need to call him, but if we're gonna have to finish stuff up anyway at the next meeting.
Yeah, we can just do
We can
seeker.
just do it then and just do the seeker.
Yeah.
Because these are what he gave to me.
Okay.
So.
My question is, what, has anything changed since we've seen this, the last meeting that we saw it? From the variance, there was no changes to the application, right? I didn't notice anything, but.
Okay, so what we have is current.
David had mentioned a couple of stipulations that would need to be added as far as future subdivision.
I saw that, like, and the child lots can't be, yeah.
And I forwarded that to the surveyor, so he's aware of that. He's just waiting to find out if there's any other changes that need to be made. We can get the final survey and then, deal with the contracts and all that. But they can't do anything until we finalize the survey, which we can't do until everybody's got their approval. I guess my question also would be, is there anybody else that we need to get approval from other than the county, or anything else that we need to do on our end to get this done?
That would be a David question, I think.
Yeah, though, David, let me see if I can find what he sent me.
Okay.
Okay.
But I think we can do seeker
Mhm.
and then if I guess we could do a draft of what we, and not actually, I don't know, could we draft up the agreement and just not vote the final vote on it? We just do preliminary vote,
Can we,
preliminary approval.
Become seeker and fill it out, but not approve it until next time we
Next time.
come have back anyway.
Yeah,
so that we can't approve it contingent on the county's approval?
Good David question.
Because I think we've done that before where Jody's just.
County staff,
Yeah.
let me know that they won't have the 239 review complete today. The long and short of that is that the board can't give final approval on the subdivision today. The other steps can go forward, so
so we just can't do final approval. We can do everything else.
we should be able to do everything up to the final approval and then signing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Does anybody want me to call him, or you think we're okay with that? I mean, that seems pretty clear
seems
to me.
clear to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
All right. And should we start with the seeker? And do we want to read through all of this, or do people just want to take a look at it? Want me to read one by one?
Sure.
All of it?
You do.
Okay, all right.
We don't have it.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
Well, no, because they have the appeal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's no. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of the land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? And public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No,
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources like wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for corrosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay. So what we need to do next is, see, I had to print this at home, but check this box if you have determined based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action may result in one or more potentially large or significant adverse impacts on environmental impact statement is required, or check if we've determined based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse or environmental impacts.
I'll make a motion that it does not have high impact.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay. So this, can we go ahead and sign this then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can complete secret.
Lead agency, I don't even know what. I haven't paid attention to that. Does anybody know? Huh?
I think we declare, didn't we declare last time?
Yeah, I think we
But then it
declared
went
last time.
UCA, I don't know.
Hmm?
No,
No,
I'm pretty sure that
we already did it.
oh, first, I'm
So we
sorry,
don't have
no.
to do this, right?
It does say in step one, first step of environmental review is declaring lead agency.
Mhm.
I motion we declare that quick.
I think we have done that
Okay,
before.
right, because it is February. Okay, we did. I'm sorry.
I shouldn't say that. So do we need to fill this out? Or did we already do it? We already did it. Okay. Let's see, send me this.
No, I think that's me, the motion that.
Okay,
We do have a motion.
we have a motion.
Yeah, so we need to vote and then.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're voting on a motion that it's not a high impact, correct? Okay. Bergman,
Yes.
Colbert,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes,
Connor.
yes,
Yes. Okay.
I think so, like I.
What are you saying?
Let's just do lead
Let's
agency
just-
again.
Yeah, it's a quick vote. Let's just
Okay.
claim that we're lead agents, so
Since
we
they're
can
both
sign
on
that,
it.
so they don't have to come back.
Yeah, and he sent this stuff to
Okay.
me.
So
As
I'll make a
attached.
motion that we become lead agency on this.
I'll second it.
Maybe just reorder those in the agenda.
It's, as
Hold back.
long as it gets approved.
Bergman,
Yes.
Colbert,
Yes.
Cowan,
Yes,
Connor.
yes,
Yes. Okay, great. All right. So is there anything else that we can actually do? We can't do the final, so there isn't anything else that we can do tonight, really. Right?
So next month, we'll make it final. Start,
Well, you better do all that partially.
Sure.
What'd you say?
Do we need to go to a county meeting or do anything for the county approval or?
I would call David about that, just to make sure, but I don't believe, I think it's county just has to do something like on the maps, they have to look at it and print it and document that it's happening. I think that's what they're talking about. But I would call David just in case, but I don't believe you need to actually go to a county meeting as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's paperwork that comes back to him that then
From the county.
from the county.
But the county gets to comment, but they don't get to decide.
Right.
So in the event that they have some sort of a recommendation that the board disagrees with, it takes a supermajority in order to pass, your approval. Otherwise, if you are in agreement, there's no impact really of their comment other than to inform the process a little bit.
Okay, thanks, Joel. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, except I'm not sure exactly how this all goes, so I'm not gonna fill it in right now. Yeah, I just give the date. So
This
I
is a
can
whole
make sure
meeting for them not to be able to go.
to make sure that it is correct. I don't wanna have to redo it. So, anyway, all right. Yeah, we
Short-term
wanted,
rentals.
wanted to talk about,
It'd be good if we could get a working mic in front of Ed, because all we're hearing is indirectly.
Actually,
So-
Ed's mic is turned on, but none of Jody's three are working.
I'm hearing Jody okay, but I'm not hearing Ed at all.
You're hearing her about as clearly as somebody in the middle of the meeting room with a big echo.
cause interference. I don't know.
Can you not hear me now?
Now I can hear you, yes.
No, Ed, you're almost reasonable. It's Jody who's really weak.
I would never characterize Jody as
I was
weak.
gonna say. So,
Jody's
Thanks, Joel.
Jody's signal.
Yes.
Maybe if we just put this in.
Yeah.
so Joel, you had something for the group for us to discuss?
Well, it was actually not I, but Scott who raised the question of whether or not the planning board would like to be involved in the whole, and how we deal with the short-term rental issue. And if he hadn't raised the issue, it might not have even come up, but the town board thought that, well, back up, this became a question when we were dealing with the Jeremy, with whatever his name is, on the corner of Beardsley Lane.
Yeah,
Because he went through site plan review for a boarding, what was it called, a boarding house?
Forest Town.
A tourist home, right, tourist home. Whereas had he chosen to rent the whole house, as opposed, if he hadn't, if he weren't living there too, he's free to do that. Anybody's free to do that without any regulation whatsoever. And it didn't seem to me that made a whole lot of sense. And then we also had, as Leslie pointed out earlier in the meeting, an effort last year, which David started on, to look at what about the other possibilities that people are already doing, even though they're not technically not allowed, which is renting outbuildings or travel trailers or tents. Shouldn't they be allowed in some measure? And if so, with what kind of regulations? There's probably ought to be something about scale, that would have an impact, requiring some sort of review, maybe subject to site plan review. Who knows? So, the town board doesn't have any strong feelings about this, but we thought it was important to find out what people's experience was with short-term rentals, whether they had concerns, and if they did, what were those concerns, as we look at the bigger picture of what to do about it all. So we put this survey together. The survey's out there now. We did tell people it was coming in the previous issue of the Danby Town News. And now they have it in their hands, and we're encouraging people in every way possible to get it back to us. And then, of course, the next step is, what do we do about it? If you would like to be part of of that next step, what do we do about it? It would be good to know, because I don't think the board would be unwilling to involve the planning board in the process of deciding what we should do. So that's basically a question for you all: do you want to be party to that?
I mean, just my opinion, and I'm at the rest of the group, but I think if people want to be involved, they can go to the town meetings. I don't necessarily think it has to come through us. That's just my opinion, but I don't necessarily think that we need to be doing it also.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, I guess unless it's a large scale, like, I don't know, for whatever whatever reason, because he was talking about traveler trailers, I'm thinking of like a campground, but like, unless there was some
That was,
large scale thing that we would want to review,
so
that would have more high impact, like otherwise, like, I don't know from a site plan perspective what we would review.
do you remember when there was the applicant that was adjacent to or backing to South Hill Cidery? They were
Yeah.
complaining because they do have kind of a campground in the summer, you know, it's
Right.
it's not called a campground, but
Yeah, they call it glamping, don't they?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, glamorous camping.
Yeah.
And David contacted Steve about that last year, saying, this is not a permitted use under our existing zoning. The whole question is, should it be? So, we'll be dealing with this one way or another. And we could, put something together and then run it by the planning board for feedback and on it. That's one level of involvement. Another level of involvement would be to give you the whole ball and say, here's what we got from the survey results. What do you think we ought to do? That's a sort of a higher level of participation.
Well, that was gonna be my question, Joel, is I think we need to sort of think about process. I think we don't at this point know what we're gonna get back from the surveys. I would think when we get the surveys, maybe having an opportunity to take a look at some of the feedback that we get would help us decide on what level and who gets involved with next steps. Because I don't think there's any way to know kind of what we're gonna hear. But my guess is we're gonna hear a wide variety of opinions.
I like that idea of us we can just give an opinion as the board after we've reviewed the surveys. I'll also add, David shared, but there are stats on short-term rentals. And in the slides that David shared from the Board of Realtors legislative luncheon Joel attended, there's like 5 slides on short-term rentals, and it kind of shows that if there's one, they broke it down by municipality, but there's only one graph that shows that. In Danby, it's just pretty consistent. It's
Can't
not like we're
understand
getting.
anything.
It is also so loud in here. There is a line on the graph showing the short-term rental use in Danby, and it has been pretty consistent over the past however many years they did this. They've been following the statistics on it. So I think it's not as big of an issue. I think it's actually kind of waning versus picking up. I think that the trend is kind of fading a little bit. But there is some statistics in that packet. And so David did email it to all of you. I don't know if the board, Joel has probably a copy from the meeting.
Yeah, and you shared it. I think you shared it with everybody. It's very informative.
Yeah.
Indicating that most of the short-term rentals in Danby, as far as the statistics indicate, are whole dwelling units and not partials or other things like camp, camping sites and
Like
so forth.
accessory dwellings.
Yeah. It's a high proportion. So I mean, it may not be a problem. We'll find out. I like the idea of having the board sort of review the survey results and then sort of based on that feedback, maybe then weighing in on what you think would be an appropriate level of engagement. And I can propose that to the board tomorrow.
Well, the other thing, Joel, that we could do, I mean, I assume we're going to be talking about this tomorrow at the board meeting.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Another
Next
thing
steps,
we
I
can
think,
do,
yeah.
I mean, I assume we'll have extra meetings. To go over the surveys when we feel like we've got enough. I guess we need to figure out what that timeline is. But we could certainly make sure Scott and everybody on the planning board knows when that meeting is and they can come. Or, I mean, we can just assume they might want to be involved. But but I assume we'll also talk about it tomorrow at the board meeting. You
Trying to
know,
remember whether I put it on the
I know
agenda or
that David also feels like it's not been a problem, but it's also sort of new. I mean, it's a new, it is, I mean, it's you know, it is a growing thing, and we're having more people buying property to rent it out, you know, I mean, so I mean, it's a changing climate.
And
It's new.
it's certainly newer than when our zoning was written. I say it's certainly newer than when our zoning is written. So
Can't understand anything.
yeah, you're a little. no,
Could
you're a
somebody
little-
repeat what she's
Leslie,
saying?
she's
yeah,
saying
you're a
it's newer than when our zoning was written.
Yeah, the problem now is calling it too close to the mic and I'm getting, distortion. What's on the agenda is consider the planning board role. Probably ought to consider the town board's role too, in how we would proceed in handling the information that's going to come out of that survey. We have to decide, and I put it on, what's the deadline? Because we failed to specify that when we sent the thing out.
Right, right.
And of course, that's the first stage is saying, when do we call it done? And then review the results. But
Yeah, I would agree with Leslie with the idea that it's fairly new. And I think as people know that there's even a discussion about it, it opens up people going, oh, I may have a place where I can do that. And I think that when people want to have events around this area, particularly in the summer, there is not enough hotel availability. There's not enough availability for people to stay. So I think it would be short-sighted not to really think about what we might want it to look like, because I think it may become bigger than what it is now in terms of people wanting to do it.
it might, the Board of Realtors information was interesting in that regard, because I would have assumed what you just said, Jody, which is that it's an expanding niche and a growing part of the market. But the Board of Realtors report suggested that it's actually kind of stabilized at this point. One of the interesting and relevant statistics was that the percentage of days rented, using short-term rentals, is a relatively small percentage of the 365.
90 days.
Yeah, which makes it unattractive. Yeah,
Right.
makes it unattractive for people to buy properties to rent that way. It doesn't pencil out. But who knows? That could change. We just went through the pandemic, which was a great reduction in demand for hotel, motel, and other sites. Although there was actually pretty good maintenance of interest in the short-term rentals, because they're less. They were more oftentimes isolated in the sense that you were renting a place that wasn't right next to a whole bunch of other people, and people felt safe doing that as opposed to being in a hotel or something. So we actually held up better than the hotel sector did. But it may be that this is a fad that has sort of peaked out and we're in a stable place, as opposed to a growing interest in buying places and renting them out that way instead of the traditional way.
Yeah, though, Joel, I think what I'm talking about is not necessarily people buying something else and then renting them out, because I know people who have redone a piece of their house downtown so that when Cornell has graduation and stuff like that, they can rent out a piece to someone, or they move out of their house to somebody else's house and rent it out. So
Right, and it helps
I
pay the
think
rent.
that's a little different situation than people deciding to buy property and then renting it out, because it wouldn't be used all the time. But does that matter to us, I think is a question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's indeed one of the questions. Does that matter to us? And that's one of the things we're looking for in the survey results, to see whether people have had positive or negative experiences of it so far in Danby, whether they have a concern about it, it's becoming a problem in my neighborhood, or it's happening in my neighborhood, doesn't seem to be a problem. It could be either of those things.
Right.
I was just gonna say that
I mean,
the statistics
it's also a-
provided. I don't even know. The statistics provided are actually from the county's report. So the county actually did some sort of research into this when it came to the town of Ithaca. So we might be able, as a municipality, to get those statistics because I think they did a more extensive report on it.
Right, I remember seeing that report too. Actually, that was part of the, that was shared in the economic summit that the Chamber of Commerce does. I was at that report, at that meeting too. And very interesting statistics on housing, in general. And that was one part of it. They covered the short-term rental impact on the availability of housing, which is also an issue across the county because there's a shortage of places for people to rent or buy.
Which might be a benefit for the accessory dwellings to help people afford to live in Tompkins County.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people, and particularly where housing is expensive, downtown Cayuga Heights, even town of Ithaca, count on their ability to rent the place out part of the year in order to help pay their taxes. So that was a hot topic when the town of Ithaca and Cayuga Heights were looking at short-term rental regulations, which they now have in place. Was what are we doing to people who need to do this by limiting their ability to do it? And it was a long and fairly contentious discussion that resulted in what they ultimately passed, which is an accommodation, but still allows some short-term rentals, but doesn't allow, it discourages the kind of buying a place just to rent it out. That was a real concern at the time. It doesn't address the, are you better off with, are you reducing the availability of rental housing by doing short-term rentals, which are probably not going to be to, locals? Fewer apartments are available if you're renting them out that way.
Right.
I don't know, and all of the statistics suggest
Well,
that
it's an
there's still a
issue.
shortage.
I mean, all the
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry, go
Leslie.
ahead.
But
Leslie, go ahead.
hey, I just want, it's been a new, it's maybe a sort of a newish topic.
Mhm.
That all the trainings I've gone to in the last maybe 2 years, there have been, workshops on short-term rental regulations. And if you even just Google, short-term rental regulations, it's been a busy hot topic for a lot of towns, a lot of cities. I know a lot of it, that I looked up had to do with, rentals along the ocean or along water, bodies of water, things that are, can be, pretty intrusive, but it is something, it's an issue that's growing, and maybe we haven't had too many situations in Danby. We've had, but maybe we haven't had too many that are making, I think I would like us to be ahead of the
I agree with
ball.
that. Yeah.
And I think we need to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think
And
the
whether
other
it be
thing
to help people,
to come to the meeting.
we have people who are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and it might be nice to have it be legal. There's that side too, so.
And I don't know whether anybody's doing the house swapping that seems to be popular as well,
Oh,
which is a whole
Yeah.
different way of doing
Mhm.
that. So, yes, we should come to the meeting, and then when we get results, it sounds to me, do we have consensus that we want to take a look at what comes out of that meeting in terms of in the survey, and then we'll figure out next steps? It makes some sense to take it step by step. Okay, thanks. Is
I'll
there
take that.
anything? Is there anything else for the good of the order here? Or do we? adjourned. We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
You're not
Bye.
microphone.
Good night and thanks.